Are you ready?
Ready when you are.
It's kind of like a little family adventure. I remember the details. There was one piece of advice that I'll go along with there. It's to stay calm and keep it simple.
Some of us can have some but you know just tell them all services This is WGBB AM 1240 and W240 TFFM 95.9 Freeport, New York.
The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily represent those of the staff, management, or owners of WGBB. Live from Merrick, New York, this is SportsTalk 1240.
And from the WGBB studios right here in Merrick, New York, this is Sports Talk 1240. It is Sunday night, August 18th, 2019, and I am your host, Rob Cramer. Thank you for joining me here right now on, as Bill Donahue previously said, a sweltering Sunday night, and he is right. And thank you, Bill. You couldn't ask for a better lead-in than Bill Donahue, so thank you for that. We got a lot to get into tonight as the New York Mets defeated the Kansas City Royals today, continuing their nice streak. As though they hit a little bump in the road in Atlanta last week, they're continuing to go in this week. The New York Yankees continue to roll along. Took a loss today, little bump, little chink in the armor, but not that bad. They can come back from it. They were working CC Sabathia back in today, so you take that loss with a grain of salt and move forward against a good team in Cleveland that's staying in town as they play the Mets later this week. Also, we got a lot of football to get to as the Jets and the Giants continue on to the back end of their preseason schedules. The MetLife Bowl game is out of the way already, so you don't got to worry about that confrontation, which usually would be happening right about now, the game between the Jets and the Giants. Which obviously, because the Jets and the Giants play each other in the regular season this year, they moved that game to earlier in the preseason, so they faced off in Week 1. We move on to Week 3 here. The Giants play on Thursday. The Jets play on Saturday, so we're getting close to that first weekend coming around on September 8th, where the Giants will kick off and the Jets the next day. Or actually, no, the Jets in the same day against Buffalo. So let's get into the baseball first. We'll get to the football in the second half of the show. As the New York Mets, like I said, who, believe it or not, the Mets own the best interleague record in the National League since 1997, including their win today against the Kansas City Royals. They're 205 and 194 in their lifetime since 1997 playing the American League. Now you consider that's a, pretty awesome feat enough with the fact that the Mets really don't have that much, success over the last 20 years. I mean, of course, Met fans are going to point to 99 and 2000 and 2006 and 2015, but when you really think about it, what years, aside from those years, were they really competitive? So that's really, that's pretty impressive that they maintained that. When you have other teams like the Cardinals and the Dodgers who have these extended periods of success, where the Mets have, as Keith Hernandez would say, have kind of been a second division team a lot of these years, which means that, bottom half of the league, that they still compiled this record, and that's not even considering the fact that they have to play the Yankees more than anybody in the National League. In 97 and 98, they only played 3 games against them, but every year from 99 until 2013, these teams played 6 games a year. That's pretty crazy. Over the last few years, the last 5 or 6 years, they've changed it up where sometimes they play 6 games, sometimes they play 4 games. But, for the most part, the Mets are playing the Yankees more than any other National League team. When you look at teams like the Royals, the the St. Louis Cardinals, who have had to play the Royals, or other teams like that, like the Dodgers playing the Seattle Mariners and other bad teams like that from the West. Um, Very impressive for the Mets. So just to recap this weekend against the Kansas City Royals, the Mets lost Friday 4-1 in a game that really felt crushing. It felt really bad. Noah Syndergaard, I mean, people want to take shots at him. The guy had just finished a streak of 6 straight starts in which he'd worked into the 7th inning or later. 6 innings, 2 runs. Didn't have his best stuff. Looked great for the first few innings. Kind of got gassed around the 5th or the 6th. Still got you through 6. Still got a quality start. And that's not just, with one of those, so-so quality starts. 6 innings, 3 runs. The guy didn't really do much. Noah actually looked good, but this is one of those occasions where the bullpen let it go. Could have been a lot worse, as Edwin Diaz pitch that was originally hit and ruled a grand slam, later called a foul ball, and the Mets ended up losing 4-1 instead of 8-1. But that was tough. It was tough. It looked bleak after that. A lot of people kind of just came to the foregone conclusion that the Mets were going to sweep them this weekend, like they'd done to a lot of the other bad teams, Pittsburgh and Chicago White Sox and the Florida Marlins. But they weren't able to do that this weekend. Look, it's a major league team. I know a lot of people expected it and wanted it, myself included, but sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But what the fact is, and what the point is that the Mets won today. They won yesterday. They won 4-1 on Saturday, 11-5 today. They got the job done. DeGrom threw a gem again. I don't hear anybody complaining about that contract now, by the way. And he goes out there, dominates on Saturday, wins 4-1, gets over 500 finally. It's crazy that a pitcher that good, we're talking about just getting over 500, 8-7 now in August. But, that's what happens when you pitch with no run support. But the guy goes out there and pretty much gives the Mets a chance to win every time out. And today, it should have been on cruise control, but Zach Wheeler fell apart, unfortunately. In the 4th and 5th inning, had a little tough time. A lot of people expected him to go out there and dominate today, too, being that the competition was what it was. But he didn't have his best stuff, just like he didn't have his best stuff last week in Atlanta. So that string of 15 consecutive scoreless innings coming into these last 2 starts, and all the good feelings people have been having with Zach Wheeler kind of went wayside for a little bit when we went into the later innings of today's games and the Mets trailing 5-4. But they were able to rebound, hit that bullpen hard. Very questionable decision, as they removed the starter today, who gave up a 3-run shot in the first inning to Michael Conforto. A bomb. 452 feet. Conforto knew it was gone right off the bat, too. And, that was just a very... it seemed to kind of stall the Mets offense for a few innings, too. It seemed like they kind of just put it on cruise control and felt like they were going to cruise to this win. But when Wheeler fell apart, it kind of made them have to wake up, and they did just that, as Todd Frazier got everything started with a bloop double, as he'd been really slumping over the last few weeks. Frazier seems to me like one of those guys that he's going through this run now where his hits are few and far between, but the hits that he gets matter, and when he gets them are in big spots. You don't have to really point to many examples other than the 3-run shot he hit against the Nationals. The guy always seems to come up and get a big hit, so you got to tip your cap to Todd Frazier. Whether he's going through a hot streak or not, if it's a big situation, he's going to be able to get it, and seeing him set the table today for that was very good to see. But the bottom line is the Mets won the game 11-5 today. They were able to, grab that last game in Atlanta to save face for a 3-3 road trip. 64-60 overall. They're tied, same record, through 124 games with the Brewers and the Phillies. All 3 of them 64-60, game and a half out of the final playoff spot. And the Chicago Cubs are currently playing right now. They're leading 7-0 against the Pittsburgh Pirates on Sunday Night Baseball, as they're playing the Little League Classic tonight in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's always fun to see out there as the guys are wearing their Little League jerseys and everything. A crowd of 2,500 out there tonight. So they have a nice little thing, but it looks like with that win, the Cubs, who hold the second wild card spot, are going to push the Mets, Phillies, and Brewers both out to 2 games out. Which, listen, I know people wanted to see the Mets run through August like they did in 2015 and like they did at the end of 2016. Um, you know, People kind of wanted to see that run again where they just win, 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 win. It's a win every day, and but look, it doesn't happen like that every year. Each year is going to be different. 2015 was out of control. The way that just kind of everything fell into place. Everything that needed to happen happened, and they won all the games we wanted them to. But 2019 is going to be a different story. It's really going to be unlike many other Mets stories we've seen told. They were 11 games under 500, rally back to 500. Now they're 4 games over, and a game and a half probably by the end of the night, 2 games out of a playoff spot. If the Pittsburgh Pirates rally, it could be a game out of a playoff spot. Now think about that. Think about where the Mets were just a couple of weeks ago, where they were 14 games out of a division spot. Now the Braves are good. The Mets have only picked up a few games on them. But they were also 9 games out of a wild card spot. To be 2 or 1 game out on August 18th, starting this week, you really have to just marvel at what this team has done. 24-10 in the second half now since the All-Star break. Conforto hit a 3-run shot today, his 26th. He continues. If he keeps this pace up, man, this is a guy that can hit 35 and drive in 100, if not better than that, if he continues to have a good run down the stretch. Now, when you look at the fact that the Mets have that in Conforto, a guy who they drafted and a guy who they've brought up and a guy that they've developed, and then you look at his teammate and the guy that hits in front of him a lot of the nights, or vice versa, depending on who's on the mound, Pete Alonso, who set the new National League rookie record for home runs tonight. And this is August 18th, like I said. This guy set the full season record, 40, that Clay Bellinger, his son actually, broke in 2017. Bellinger hit 39 that year. In all honesty, it was an abbreviated year. He came up a couple of years into the season. A couple of weeks into the season. He ended up missing a little bit of time. Still hit 39 home runs. Still was the National League mark coming into today. And speaking of Mark, the next guy he's got on the list is on the Major League list. Mark McGwire in 1987 hit 49. He's number 2 on the all-time rookie list. He hit that for the Oakland A's, so that used to be the American League record. Well, not anymore. As of 2 years ago, Judge hit the 52 home runs. Aaron Judge, 52 home runs in 2017. You just, couldn't make it up. The ball's coming off the guy hit 20 home runs in September. So, if Alonso does anything like that, we're going to be looking at 60. So that would be insane. But don't expect to see Pete Alonso hitting 60 home runs. But believe it or not, 50 is not even out of the question right now. The mark of 52, that might be a bit much, but you never know. Never know. The guy gets on a run. Who knows how many home runs he can hit? He's already at 40. He's already at 95 RBIs. Now, when you look at that too, from a Mets perspective, the Met rookie record for home runs coming into this year was Darryl Strawberry at 26. He smashed that, Pete Alonso. He's at 40 now. The Met club record for home runs coming into this year is 41. So the next home run that Pete Alonso hits will be the record-tying home run for Met for the full season. He's still got a month and a half to go. He's still got 6-7 weeks left in the season. And he's in a playoff race. With the Mets, only 3 other guys had ever hit 40 home runs in a season until Alonso joined the club today. And that's Mike Piazza, hit 40 in 1999. Carlos Beltran hit 41 in 2006. And Todd Hundley hit 41 in 1996. Those are the only 3 guys to ever hit 40 home runs in a Met uniform, and they all did it once. Once. So, seeing what this guy has done this year, where he plays his home games, Citi Field, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in baseball. Sure, obviously we all know the ball's juiced. They can say whatever they want about it. The ball's flying out at a rate that it's never flown out before in the history of baseball, so it definitely is juiced. Or something's definitely, off. But that, in my opinion, doesn't take away from the accomplishment at what Pete Alonso has done this year, considering nobody else, when you look around the league, how many other guys have 40 home runs? Not many. You can count it on one hand, actually. Bellinger, Yelich, and Alonso now. So, that's a short list. You got a couple other guys that might join that club this year, but when you look around the league, it's easy to see who's the top echelon, and Pete Alonso is in the top echelon right now, one way or another. Just to finish up on the Mets before we get to the Yankees here, I just want to say that a lot of people might have taken issue with what Mickey did today with J.D. Davis pinch hitting and tying the game up for the Mets. Say what you want, he's playing to win, and J.D. ended up going first to third on a base hit. After that, I believe it was a Pete Alonso base hit. He went first to third and came up a little lame. I mean, lame might not be the right word. Came up a little gingerly going into third base. Didn't look good. My initial thought was, I'm worried because it was 4-4 at this time. I'm worried about if he can score on a sac fly. You want to take the lead. That's the main thing there. And you don't want him, A, not being able to score on a sac fly, and B, hurting himself attempting to score on a sac fly. Who knows the level of exertion he can put on that tweaked quad or whatever it actually is that J.D. Davis has in his leg. But luckily, Mickey noticed this, went out there, removed him, and even though the Mets played short-handed and had to stick their starting shortstop, Ahmed Rosario, in left field, I completely understand what he did, and I didn't mind it at all. It also didn't hurt the fact that Rosario's been dabbling in the left field a little bit. But also, before I move on to the Yankees too, I want to just mention, can we move on from having all these guys in the bullpen? Why do the Mets have like eight relievers in the bullpen? They got 5 starters. You don't need 8, and not to mention you got 5 starters who, for the most part, are going to give you at least 6 innings every time out, at least. And for the most part, you've been getting 7 innings or more from these guys on a consistent basis. So why do we need 8 relievers? Can we bring up another outfielder so you don't have to stick this guy, Ahmed Rosario, in a pennant race in left field when he's never played it before? That's my one criticism that I will say. I don't understand. Raji Davis is my guy. I don't know. The guy's been down in AAA for Syracuse, tearing it up. He's hitting .290. He had 3 hits today. The guy's stolen 20 bases. He hit another home run today. He's not hit for a lot of power, but he's not a power guy. And he also missed time this year due to injury. I know he's 38 years old, but he's still got speed. He's been in pennant races before. He was on that 16 Indians team, and he hit the home run off Aroldis Chapman that I don't remember if it tied or put him ahead in the 8th inning, but it was a dramatic home run. I remember that. And let's bring Raji back. He had a big year. He had a big home run for the Mets earlier this year, and I'd like to see him back. And I'd like to see him back before September 1st. Also, it looks like Brandon Nimmo is on the way back. And also, there's been a Jed Lowry sighting. Now, Jed Lowry sighting has been almost as rare and few and far between as a Bigfoot sighting these days. But it looks like the Mets infielder who they gave $20 million to, Jed Lowry, this offseason, is right around the corner coming back to, hopefully in a couple of weeks. So, take that with a grain of salt. All right, so sorry about that. Got had to get a lot of stuff with the Mets off my chest. But look, if you're a Yankee fan and you're annoyed that I'm cutting into their time, look at it right now. The Yankees are I said this the other day. The Yankees are going into the playoffs on roller skates, to borrow a line from the great Mike Francesa. the Yankees have nothing to worry about. Sure, they lost a tough game today, 8-4 to the Cleveland Indians. They split a 4-game set with the Cleveland Indians. Mike Clevenger was ripping through them very early, striking out 10 batters through the first 4 innings. Guy was looking great. CC did not look great today. Went out there, 3 innings, 4 runs, got touched up. This is the first time CC's pitched since July 27th. They're just trying to work him back in. Don't be that alarmed by it. The Yankees are still in first place. They're still up by 9.5 games on second place Tampa Bay. They've still won 7 of their last 10. And look, they're about to take a tough 10-game road trip, but we'll get to that in a minute. Working CC back into, well, here's a couple of things on CC. Now, I think this is the time of year where CC's going to start kicking it into gear. This is where the Yankees need him down the stretch. Sabathia is a big game pitcher, and I know he's old now, and I know a lot of people don't look at him as dependable, but it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up playing a big role down the stretch as a 4 or number 5 for this team. He's not gone more than 4 1/3 innings since July 16th when he went 6 innings against Tampa Bay. A lot of his recent starts have been 4, 4, 3 this time. His last start before today was in Boston where he got touched up and then landed on the DL the next day. But with all this and all these guys out, everything the Yankees have had to overcome with this year, they're 83-43 with the best record in Major League Baseball at the end of today. They're a game over the Dodgers, who, by the way, they get this weekend in a really, really classic interleague series between the best team in the American League and the best team in the National League. It's a potential World Series preview if you really look at it. Dodgers and Yankees in Dodger Stadium this weekend. That's always fun to see. But also coming around on the mend. He probably won't be pitching this weekend. He probably won't be pitching next weekend. But maybe you'll see him sometime in September. Is Luis Severino, as he's close to a rehab assignment. They're saying that last week he threw, from what I heard, at the end of last week, he threw a very intense bullpen session. He was throwing with intent. He was looking like a guy that wasn't just lollygagging out there, pretty much, is from what I've heard from all the writers. And then today he went out there and had a bullpen session where he faced live batters in the batting cage under Yankee Stadium through 15 pitches, and they said that he looked good, that he was hitting his spots, and this is all according to the New York Post. So word is that he could be going to Tampa for a simulated game or a minor league rehab assignment, or both possibly, depending on how long they want him down there for. And but Boone and Cashman still won't comment on the time frame or exactly what he's going to be doing and when. So it looks like this is going to be happening in the next week or two. They're ramping him up. He said this is one of the first times he's thrown off a mound this year since spring training, since he had all this time. So to get Severino back in any form, that's big for the Yankees. That's big. They could use that like their Willis Reed moment, having him go out there, even if you use him as a starter. Which, by the way, I think the idea that people were talking, and that's another Francesa thing I'm stealing from him, the idea that the Yankees are going to go out and start Chad Green in a playoff game, are you out of your mind? Chad Green has been great this year, and the Yankees did win their first 10 games where they used a opener in their game this season. They started off 10-0, lost their most recent one, but hey, they started off 10-0. That's saying something big. But you know what that tells me? That's a good thing to do if you don't have a great starting rotation in the regular season. But you're not getting away with that in the playoffs. You're going to kill your bullpen, and it makes no sense. One thing that I will say is that, it's just it's something that works well in the regular season. It's especially when you look, and I know the Yankees tried it against the Indians on Thursday night, and they got bombed 19-5. Now that doesn't mean that that's exactly what happened in the postseason, but when you look at a lot of the quality of teams that the Yankees have used the opener against this year, it's not the quality of the Indians. And it's not going to be in the ALDS with a packed house. A lot of the times it's in the second half of a doubleheader, or it's in, against a lower quality team, or a lower quality lineup, or a low leverage situation. Using Chad Green as a starter, in my opinion, is completely out of your mind. But I understand why it would be discussed. Fans are going to be fans, just like the same fans are going to say that they want to see Talkman out there in the playoffs. Who I'm not knocking; he's been great. But if Giancarlo Stanton comes back 2 weeks before that, he's going to be seeing the start in the outfield, not Mike Talkman. Um, I like Talkman. I'm impressed with Talkman, but he's not going to be starting over Stanton. You're fooling yourself if you're thinking that. But fans will be fans. They're going to think what they think. They're going to like to go with the hot hand, and I understand that. So you have to just realize that, especially a guy like Stanton, who the Yankees are paying, what, 25, 30 million this year, he's going to be in the starting lineup in crunch time if he's ready to go. So, take that for what it's worth. Also, like I said, just to finish up with that thought from earlier, the Yankees are going to embark on a tough West Coast trip now, as this week they're going to be, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they're going to be in Oakland. A hot team just took 3-4 from one of the hottest, from one of the best teams in baseball, the Houston Astros. I thought today they were going to win this game. That the Astros were able to save face and avoid the 4-game sweep in Oakland. But now Oakland just sits back and waits for the Yankees to come to them on Tuesday night, as it'll be Domingo Germán brings a 16-2 record with a 3.96 ERA going against Homer Bailey, who's 10-8 this year, but he's 3-2 with Oakland with an ERA over 6. But that's a small sample size. He's actually won 3 games, so that's really what you have to be impressed with. And it's now the Yankees got to take care of business in Oakland. They get the Dodgers, like I mentioned, after that 3-game set, and then they go to Seattle. So, it's the first 2 are tough. Now Seattle is tough. Is not tough on paper. They're a joke on paper compared to the Yankees. But if the Yankees go there and win 2 out of 3, after a long West Coast trip, it's going to be tough to go in there and expect a sweep in Seattle, especially when the Yankees are pretty much just playing meaningless games at this point until October. So it's tough to expect a sweep in Seattle, but you never know. If the Yankees go in there and clean their clocks, it wouldn't surprise me either. But don't let anything that happens in that series really dictate your feelings about the Yankees. They're on a path to the playoffs one way or another, and there's really it's just only a matter of time. Game 1, whatever day that is, October 3rd, October 4th, in the ALDS, most likely being held at Yankee Stadium against whatever wild card team they're facing. That's the next game that matters to the Yankees. It's all about the World Series now. They're going to win probably 100-plus games. They're already at 83 games. 17 more wins seems more than likely for them for the last 6-7 weeks of the year. So it's just going to be the Yankees playing out the clock here. They're going to take the ball and nail it in September and just wait until the big time starts. And the big time for the Yankees is the postseason World Series or bust. Well, all right, so thank you for sticking with me here on Sports Talk 1240 tonight. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, and you can follow me on Twitter at Cramer New York. It's my last name, Cramerny. And also check out my webpage, coffeewithkramer.com. See everything I'm up to. But we got a lot to get to in the second half, a lot of football to talk about this day in sports history. But before that, we'll take our first break. Thanks for sticking with me here. If you want, give me a call in the second half of the show, 516-623-1240. I'd be happy to hear from you, and I'll see you when we get back.
WGBB. Really? Blizzards have been delivering state-of-the-art foot care with good old-fashioned caring to Long Island residents for over 30 years. Specialists in sports medicine and foot injuries, Country Foot Care can be reached at 516-741-FEED or online at countryfootcare.com.
So when we come back, I'm going to do a little this day in sports history, and then I'll do right after that. Thanks, man.
Here on AM 1240 WGBB. Our rates are very affordable. We'll even produce the radio commercial for you. Just head over to SportsTalk1240.com and fill out the Contact Us form. And let us start promoting your business today. Unflippable, unflappable, unleakable. The Gustbuster is the only umbrella that won't flip inside out, rip, tear, or leak. Capable of withstanding winds over 55 miles per hour. All of our umbrellas are constructed of the finest quality materials and backed by a limited lifetime guarantee. What are you waiting for? Visit Gustbuster.com and get your Gustbuster today. Stay connected to Sports Talk 1240 by following us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's Sports Talk 1240.
You're listening to Sports Talk 1240, broadcasting every Sunday night beginning at 8 p.m. right here on Long Island's AM 1240 WGBB, the station that serves your community. And now, back to the show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for sticking around with me here on this Sunday night. And this is This Day in Sports History. August 18th, 1967, Red Sox star Tony Conigliaro is hit in the head by Angels pitcher Jack Hamilton. The impossible dream Red Sox team would still go on to the World Series, but would lose to the St. Louis Cardinals, and Conigliaro's career would never be the same again, as he didn't even appear again until 1969, 2 years later. On this date, August 18th, 1980, Kansas City Royals star George Brett would go 4 for 4 with 5 RBIs against Toronto in a victory and raise his average to .401, making him the first man to hit over 400 that late in the season since Ted Williams did in 1941. This date, August 18th, 1986, after being drafted 14th overall by the Bills in 1983 and choosing to play the first 2 years of his career for the Houston Gamblers of the USFL, Hall of Famer Jim Kelly signs on with the Buffalo Bills and would stay with them from 86 until 96, including 4 trips to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately for him, none of them would end with a Super Bowl championship. On this date, August 18th, 1989, the Yankees replaced manager Dallas Green with Bucky Dent. After a tough start to the year, 56 and 65, the Yankees fired Green, and Bucky Dent would take over, finishing out the year 18 and 22. He would start the next season 18 and 31 before being fired and replaced by Stump Merrill. Really, the only couple of down years for the Yankees over the last century. And finally, on this date in 1992, Larry Bird formally announced his retirement after spending 13 years with the Boston Celtics and playing with the 1992 Olympic basketball team, Dream Team. So that does it for this day in sports history. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, and the NFL season is back upon us. That's right. Are you ready for the NFL season? I know I am, because I go to BetDSI.com. BetDSI.com is an A-plus rated sportsbook, and it's been around since 1998. In the last 20 years, they've built an impeccable reputation for great service and fast payment, combined with an excellent mobile interface so you can play, win, and get paid anywhere, anytime. There's a lot of words going around as the New York Jets start this season plus 8,000 in the books for the Super Bowl. So hey, you throw down $100 on the Jets and they win a Super Bowl this year, you're getting $8,000. So you want to do that? Go to betdsi.com, and if you sign up for a new account and use my promo code COFFEE, that's COFFEE, BetDSI will double your money on your deposit, and you'll join the fun at betdsi.com. And don't forget, at BetDSI you can bet on anything, not just the NFL, but MLB, NBA, NHL, boxing, UFC, horse racing, politics, and more. Don't stand on the sidelines. Just check them out at betdsi.com. That's BETDSI.com, and use my promo code COFFEE, COFFEE, and double your bankroll today. Thanks, BetDSI. And if that NFL Films music doesn't get you ready for football season, nothing will. And I can't wait right now. I'd like to start this half, and thank you for sticking around with me here on this hot Sunday night, on WGBB. I want to start it off here with the Jets in the second half of the show now, as the Jets have played 2 games so far. Obviously, they're 1-1. They lost the first week to the Giants, 31-22. That heartbreaking Snoopy Bowl loss. I know all the Jet fans, including myself, still can't sleep over it. I'm being horribly sarcastic right now because I couldn't care less about that game. Just I wanted to get through it with no injuries, and unfortunately, they did that week, but not the following week. We'll get to that in a minute. But week 1 in the preseason came and went, no big deal. Sam Darnold, 4 out of 5, 68 yards and a touchdown. That first drive against the Giants looked great. Another guy who opened my eyes a little bit that first week was Trevor Siemian. 13 for 16, 77 yards and a touchdown. Obviously, I know he's playing against a lot of backups, same as a lot of the other guys. But, I really liked what I saw of Trevor Siemian. I think he could be a good backup for Darnold. A lot of people calling him, James McNown 2, or Josh McNown 2, I'm sorry, who was the backup and mentor to Darnold last year, if you're not familiar. Obviously, Trevor Siemian's a much younger guy, but he's a guy, too, that's played with Peyton Manning in the past. This is a guy who knows Adam Gase well, knows the type of offense that Adam Gase wants to run. So, this isn't the worst thing in the world for him to be there. Davis Webb, I've not been impressed with him so far. I think Davis Webb needs to get out of here. Luke Falk, he's fighting for a spot right now. He's impressed me both times I've seen him, so keep an eye on him. The Jets have not played Le'Veon Bell yet. He has not made his preseason debut, including in this most previous win, a 22-10 win in Atlanta, which the Jets did. Also that week, Sam Darnold looked pretty good, 5 of 7, 46 yards. Played about a quarter, a little bit more than a quarter. So, didn't look lost out there. Looked like he had a lot of protection. So I'm happy to see that. A second straight game where they had a touchdown on the opening drive. Trevor Siemian had a little bit less playing time, 2 out of 4 this week, 10 yards. Davis Webb had 2 out of 5, and Luke Falk good again, 4 out of 4, 41 yards and a touchdown. One thing you could be really happy about is that the Jets' new GM has been very proactive with what he's done. He went out and saw a weakness. Jonathan Harris was the Jets' starting center, or what everybody thought was going to be their starting center, and he saw a deficiency there. As good a player as he is, he thought he needed an upgrade, especially with the young quarterback. Went out, added former All-Pro Ryan Khalil. The former Panther comes in. He's played in a Super Bowl. Like I said, he's been an All-Pro. He's been a Pro Bowler. This is a type of guy that takes the entire offensive line up a notch. Not just the center position, the entire thing. That's a really big move that I think has been talked about a little bit, but maybe because both baseball teams are doing really well. Football's not the biggest story yet. I haven't really heard a lot about it, but Ryan Khalil, that's going to be a big story. As long as he stays healthy, for the Jets this season, that guy is going to be a big pickup for them. And if the Jets make the playoffs this year or are in the run for the playoffs, it'll be because Ryan Khalil has played at an all-pro level. Um, I'd be surprised if they're anywhere in that mix and Khalil has not played well or is not there. Um, but to get to the badness was during this one, for some reason, near the end of the second quarter, Avery Williamson was still out there. And it's funny because I remember I was watching this game and I noticed that Avery Williamson was still out there. And I was saying to myself, wow, I can't believe they're having them play this much in this first game. And then literally, 2 or 3 plays later, he was down on the ground and you just knew it wasn't good. I was keeping my fingers crossed to say, to see Avery Williamson, be able to walk himself off, or to hear the next day or two after this injury that it wasn't as bad as it seemed. But we ended up getting the news just a few days later that it was a torn ACL, and linebacker Avery Williamson was done for the season. One of the keys to this Jets offense, he was a captain last year. This was a guy who you could really depend on. One of the few bright spots on just a bad year for the Jets last year. And for him to go down before they even have a chance to play their third preseason game, very disheartening for that defense. It's even more disheartening than the lack of depth they have at the corner position this year, which is really being exposed. Jets really have to hope that they're able to patch that corner up. I don't know. Maybe after all the cuts are done in a couple of weeks, maybe they add a corner that way. But to be honest, the corner situation is looking so bad at this point that I would be willing to trade a pick for a corner, depending on how good they are. If you don't want to completely screw yourself over for next year. But I think it would definitely behoove the Jets to look into that situation, and I'm sure the new GM has done that. To keep going on with the Jets here, they also signed linebacker Albert McClellan, who's a guy that played for the Ravens formerly. He's more of a depth guy. He's going to try to pick up a little bit. And they also traded for guard Alex Lewis, who I really like this pickup too. They gave up, I believe, a 7th-round pick next year for him. A lot of people have, said that it's not that big a deal. They traded for him. A lot of Ravens fans I've seen have scoffed at the Jets trading a draft pick for this guy. But what's it called? The Jets still. But just the fact they got a big body there. He's 6'6", 305 pounds. That's the type of thing they need. No doubt about it. Depth on the chart. Depth on the offensive line. He adds size. He adds talent. That's what they need. And as for Avery Williamson, look, was I happy that he was in there? At the time, I didn't really think that much about it. After the injury, he probably, when you think about it, he probably shouldn't have been in there. But that doesn't matter anymore. It's irrelevant to the situation. It's over and done with. You have to move on. Avery Williamson is not going to be here this year, and there's nothing they can do about it. The Jets have to move on to other things too, like their kicking game. Their kicking game has been awful this year. They have to address that somehow. They got their running game. Obviously, we haven't seen Le'Veon Bell yet. They got their running game looking well this year, or last week at least. It looked pretty good, where they had Ty Montgomery, this guy formerly of the Packers. I foresee this guy Ty Montgomery being a Jet fan favorite this year because he's going to be able to be used in a whole bunch of different situations, both as a running back and a receiver, and it's going to be fun to watch him out there this year. Another guy who I will say is definitely going to make the team is Bilal Powell. I saw some flashes of brilliance out of him this year, or in the most recent game. I think Bilal Powell still has a lot to add. I believe he's only 29 or 30 years old. He's a guy that Jet fans already love. He doesn't have to work on that. and pretty much I think that the Jets, have a little bit of depth at that position now, and even Elijah McGuire, they could stick him on the practice squad if that can work out. I would like to see that and just have him as a depth guy. But whatever they're gonna do, that's the main thing. With the Jets coming up now, though, they have their third preseason game, which is usually the game where you have the starters play the most. They're at least going to play the first half, maybe even the second, the first series of the second half. As the New Orleans Saints are the team that comes in to play the Jets Saturday at 7:30. It's August 24th. Like I said, the starters are going to be in. It's going to be very interesting to see. There's definitely a lot that the Jets have to show. I mean, Adam Gase, though, has done a good job so far of not showing much to anything, especially to starters. It's all pretty much, he's done a good job of masking what kind of offense he's really going to be using. I'm very interested. I hope the Jets don't go this whole preseason with with no Le'Veon Bell. You really have to show Le'Veon Bell. Let him get hit a couple of times. Let him, work it out. The guy hasn't been in a game situation since 2017. So I know he was all pumped up. He wanted to play week 2, and just hasn't been out there yet. I understand why they're limiting. Obviously, when you look at what happened to Avery Williamson, you completely understand why they'd be hesitant to do that. But wasn't the case. Nothing you could do, and the Jets have to move on and keep their guys all going in the right direction. They have New Orleans this weekend. They have the Eagles on the 29th, and then after that, boom, ready to start the regular season. Crazy to think about that, but that's actually a fact. As the regular season is coming upon us, and after this week, the fourth preseason game. Nobody remembers or cares about the fourth preseason game. That's actually the Jets usually end up playing the Eagles in that, and that's what's it called? That's for the Jets. Now let's take it on with the Giants. So we started off by saying earlier that the Giants beat the Jets 31-22 in that the first preseason game. They beat the Bears 32-13 at MetLife just this past weekend. And, so far Daniel Jones has really gotten his guys excited. Daniel Jones looks very good so far. He led a very nice drive where he went 5-5 against the Jets in Week 1. Led them on a touchdown. Got much more experience in Game 2 as he went 11-14 with 161 yards and a touchdown. He has not thrown a pick. And, the Giants don't have the best offensive line. Right now they have a situation where one of their best offensive weapons, Saquon Barkley, has not stepped on the field. And still the Giants are 2-0. It's preseason, I know. It's not an indication that they're going to be making the playoffs this year, but it's an indication that this team is not incompetent. That this team, might have a little bit of talent to them. We saw in that first week, Peppers jumped a great play against Sam Darnold, where it almost, it should have been a pick. Might have even been a pick 6 had he held on to it against Sam Darnold. And you see they have this talent. They're starting to get it together. If their offensive line can be competent this year and can stay healthy, and then maybe they can start working themselves towards where the Giants don't have to worry about that line as much. They're still going to have to add to it in the future years, but you've got to hope now that once Eli is done after this year, no matter what game it is, that you've got the quarterback to hand the keys to the kingdom over to. And not only do you have the quarterback that you're really hoping, you also got Saquon Barkley. And you got the other 2 first-round picks that you used this year. You know, there's a lot of young talent on this team right now. There probably has to be a couple of other pieces added before anybody starts taking them seriously. Maybe that even comes with another year or 2 down the line of getting of upgrading on head coach from Pat Shurmur. I think Pat Shurmur is the perfect guy right now to cleanse this clubhouse, cleanse the locker room, and get this team playing again, but he might not be the coach to take this team to the next level. But since the Giants aren't at the next level right now, and they still got to play through this year, and still have to see where they're going, Pat Shurmur is the perfect transitional coach right now, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to be the guy that's going to be holding the next Lombardi Trophy for them, but he doesn't necessarily need to be right now. He just needs to be the guy that gets the most out of the 53 men that he goes into this season with. And that's the main thing. That's the main thing. So Saquon Barkley, like I said, still has not appeared. So the Giants still have their final 2 preseason games. Both are on the road. They're going to be playing on this Thursday night at Cincinnati, 7 p.m., August 22nd. So that's an interesting game for them. They're also going to be finishing the year the same night the Jets are finishing the year, while the Jets are going to be in the Giants' division rival Philadelphia. The Giants are going to be at the Jets' division rival, the New England Patriots, the same night. So they're going to be finishing up with a couple of division rivals and heading into the regular season after that. Very interesting. The Giants open the year September 8th at Dallas. So, right now the main thing that you have to know as a Giant fan, like we just talked about, is Pat Shurmur and Dave Gettleman have to have this game plan. You have to know when this team is going to be turned over to Daniel Jones. Is it going to be for the full season? Is it going to be the last 3 games? Is it going to be the second half? Is it going to be, after the first 4 games? Who knows? I mean, if the Giants are 0-4, no matter what their record is, at some point, if the Giants are losing, you're going to hear it. If the Giants are 9-6 going into to week 17, they have a chance, you're not going to be hearing that many calls for Daniel Jones. If Eli's throwing 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards and 15 picks, and he's looking not like an all-pro, but like a quarterback that can help a team win, you're not going to be hearing it, and everybody will just be content to turn it over to the young kid the next year. But, you never know. When a team struggles, fans get restless, and understandably so. Believe me, as a Jet fan, I understand that. I've been there a lot of years, but most of the time it was somebody like Geno Smith or, one of these bad quarterbacks, taking over, and there's nothing you can really do. But now, as a Giants, you got a number 6 pick who, no matter where you thought he should have been drafted, he was going to be somewhere in that top 30 to 50 guys, most likely. And he ended up being number 6, and he looks pretty good so far. So, don't knock the guy. Sure, I know he hasn't played number 1 defenses yet. I know he hasn't been out there, even working with the Giants' top guys. But the guy's gone out there and has shown some signs of life. So that's all you can really ask. If I say right now, if it's me, that the Giants are going to ride or die with Eli this year, I think, and if they're out of it, the last 3 or 4 games, they'll turn it over to Daniel Jones. But that's just me. That's just a guess. And that's just somebody who has no skin in the game because I'm a Jet fan, not a Giant fan. I'm trying to look at it as unbiased and as reasonable as I can. So, I don't know. It depends on how Eli is and how the first half of the year goes and how the entire season goes. Like I said earlier, if the Giants start off the year 0-4, there will be people calling for Daniel Jones to start right from that point, and probably even before that. So it's really going to just depend how this season plays out for the Giants. Um, and pretty much, I think that the Giants are pretty set up, more than their fans will give them credit for. Um, they do have potential, not for 2019 for the most part. I mean, you never know. They could come out and compete this year, um, especially with the running game they have, as long as their offensive line produces and stays healthy and is consistent. But for the most part, I think that this is going to be a year of growth for the Giants, where they're probably picking in the top 10 again next year. A lot of fans probably wouldn't even mind if they're picking in the top 5 again, just to get that elite level talent. You don't have to worry about the quarterback. You don't have to worry about the running back. Now, the pick that you have next year, you hope is going to be a rock that you can build, whether it be an offensive line, maybe you pick another receiver to help Daniel Jones out, like I said, or the offensive lineman to help your quarterback. Maybe you go and add that piece to your defense that you think helps your defense take its ability to the next level. There are so many ways the Giants can go after this season, and that's not even counting free agency. I think while this year might be a tough one, the Giants could be coming up to a very good horizon in the next couple of years. And whether Dave Gettleman and Pat Shurmur are there to enjoy the fruits of their labor are one thing, but if you're a Giant fan, you'll be here. So that's the main thing. And so we're pretty much coming to the end of things here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as I thank you for sticking with me here at nearly 10 o'clock tonight on a Sunday night. Very warm Sunday night here. So thanks for sticking with me. If you like what you've heard tonight, you can check me out on my podcast, Coffee with Cramer. You can check that out anywhere you get podcasts, Stitcher, iTunes, really anywhere. So check that out. Check me out on my website too, coffeewithcramer.com. I have a bunch of stuff up there where I just did an in-depth thing on the Knicks and the Nets, and Kevin Durant choosing to continue his career in Brooklyn, shockingly. I know I'm a month late on this right now, but I still can't believe it. The Knicks aren't the destination in New York anymore, so what are you going to do? But, so, thanks for sticking around with me here. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, and we're going to be getting out of here right now. I hope you had a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time. I'll probably be on sometime in September. Check me out on Twitter at Cramer New York, CramerNY. Shoot me a link, and thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Have a great one.